So I came across a bizarre headline recently. A Muslim mayor of a city in America endorses Donald Trump for president. Yes, that Donald Trump. The man who infamously instituted the so-called Muslim ban in 2017, the same Trump who enraged Muslims around the world by formally recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel later that same year. A man known for his vulgarity and countless scandals, including getting caught paying off a woman he allegedly cheated on his wife with. And now with Trump neck and neck with Democrat Vice President Kamala Harris ahead of the presidential election this November, Amr Ghalib, the Muslim mayor of Hamtramck, Michigan, endorses him? How does that make sense? On the surface, it seems contradictory. A Muslim leader endorsing a man who has been blatantly and consistently hostile to Muslims and immigrants in general. But as we'll soon see, there are some political motivations at play, and in the middle of it all is the worsening situation in Israel and Palestine. So let's dive in. First off, who is Amr Ghalib? Born in Yemen, Ghalib immigrated to the US as a teenager and settled in the small city of Hamtramck, located in the Detroit metropolitan area in Michigan. In 2021, Ghalib became Hamtramck's first Muslim mayor, breaking an over 100-year streak of the city being represented by a Polish-American mayor. The city, once populated mostly by Polish immigrants, is now home to large Yemeni and Bangladeshi populations and is the first Muslim-majority city in the US. Besides Ghalib, all 6 city council seats are held by Muslims. Ghalib has made headlines before. Last year, he attracted controversy for supporting a resolution banning the display of LGBTQ flags on city property, and for failing to condemn anti-Semitic remarks made by one of his political appointees. More about that in a little bit, but his recent endorsement of Trump does put him back in the national spotlight. Why would he throw his support behind a candidate who's so antagonistic to Muslim interests? It starts to make sense when you consider the current political climate in the US, particularly in Michigan, where local Muslims are incredibly frustrated with the Biden-Harris administration's support for Israel. There was a recent poll from the Council on American Islamic Relations that showed that Kamala Harris has the support of only 12% of Michigan's Muslim voters, compared to 18% for Trump and 40% for Green Party candidate Jill Stein, who, counter to most of the US political hierarchy, has been a very harsh critic of Israel. Muslim American anger toward Biden and Harris is growing as Israel's battering of Gaza persists and as it escalates the violence to now engulf Lebanon. Put simply, many Muslims feel disillusioned and even betrayed by the Democrats, and this disillusionment and betrayal is being felt in Hamtramck too. Earlier this year, Ghalib even turned down an invitation from the White House to attend a conference of US mayors in protest of the US government's financing of airstrikes in the Middle East. Trump, on the other hand, has worked hard to secure Ghalib's endorsement. He held a private 20-minute meeting with the mayor in Flint, Michigan, where they discussed Arab and Muslim concerns. Now, Trump's interest here is obvious. Michigan is a key swing state that he won in 2016 when he defeated Hillary Clinton, and that he lost to Biden when he failed to get reelected in 2020, unless you're a Trump supporter who thinks he actually won that election. And in recent polls, Michigan is pretty much a toss-up between Harris and Trump, meaning even a tiny boost in voters could make all the difference. There's another layer to this, though, that might be surprising unless you've spent some time living in a Muslim household. So despite coming from very different religious and cultural backgrounds, Muslims and Christian Republicans tend to share a lot of the same conservative values, typically anti-abortion, anti-atheism, and pro-traditional family values, in other words, anti-LGBTQ rights. For example, in 2023, Ghalib backed a resolution that banned the display of LGBTQ flags on city property. This move drew criticism, but Ghalib stood his ground, stating, "You do not know our city more than we do. and you will not know the consequences of opening the door for every group to fly their flag on city properties. Ghalib's stance here resonates with many socially conservative Muslim Americans who are, let's say, uncomfortable with the progressive agenda of the Democrat Party. Of course, it must also be said there are many on the far right who support Trump, including white supremacists who are very hateful and prejudiced against Jewish people, and this, of course, is true for many Muslims. So one of Ghalib's appointees said the following in a Facebook post in reaction to Israel's bombing of Gaza. Was the Holocaust God's advanced punishment of the chosen people in between quotation marks, for the savagery they're committing today against the innocent Palestinians, children, and civilians? Ghalib didn't speak out against the statement, which some saw as an implicit endorsement of anti-Semitic rhetoric that's pretty typical in the Muslim world. Ghalib's controversies extend further back, including an instance where he apparently liked a Facebook comment referring to Jews as monkeys. Combined with anger toward the Biden administration for largely condoning Israel's actions in killing or displacing hundreds of thousands of Palestinian and Lebanese civilians, along with a shared social conservatism and alignment with the far right, these factors might help explain Ghalib's support. However, despite these areas of agreement, Ghalib's endorsement of Trump is incredibly flawed. Trump may sometimes speak the language of social conservatism, but when it comes to issues that matter most to Muslims, like Palestine, his track record is simply abysmal. To recap a few examples I mentioned at the start of this video, first, there's that Muslim travel ban. It was one of Trump's first executive orders as president, and he banned travel to the US from several Muslim-majority countries, including Yemen, which is again where Ghalib was born and many in his community in Hamtramck originally come from. And then there's Trump's decision to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the US embassy there from Tel Aviv. These actions were seen as a major blow to Palestinian self-determination, further destabilizing the region and putting Trump squarely on the side of Israeli interests and opposed to Muslims. Trump also recognized Israel's sovereignty over the Syrian territory of the Golan Heights, which Israel occupied following the 1967 war, and that's a decision that runs counter to much of the global community, which considers the Golan Heights occupied Syrian land. He even brokered the Abraham Accords, which normalized relations between Israel and several Arab countries, further aggravating Muslims who disagreed with the decision of their political leaders to align with Israel in that way. Regarding Gaza, Trump has said that he would let Israel finish the job there.
Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
Now, that's a terrifying prospect if we consider how many Palestinians might still have to die for that job to be finished, whatever job or finish means in this context. Yet despite all this, Ghalib somehow actually called Trump a man of principles in his endorsement statement. What? It begs the question of what those principles are. Of course, I mean, let's not forget Trump's reputation. He's a man known for dishonesty and fraud in his business dealings, a man who has bragged about grabbing women.
I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Whatever you want. Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
Who has been embroiled in so many scandals, I've honestly lost track of how many there are. But to just mention a recent one, getting convicted for falsifying business records related to covering up an alleged extramarital affair he had with a porn star. Wow, yep, I'm sure that's the kind of principle Ghalib is referring to. In the end, Ghalib's endorsement could lead to an ironic outcome. If Trump wins Michigan with the help of Muslim votes, it could clinch the election for him. And if Trump is re-elected, despite his social conservatism, his policies will likely continue to favor Israel and harm the very Muslim communities that helped put him back in office. When it comes to political inclusivity and social acceptance for the US's roughly 4 million Muslims, the Democrats are actually probably the better bet, especially with Muslim politicians like Palestinian American Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar representing the party and advocating for Palestine in Congress. But the reality is that neither Trump nor Biden will address the core concerns of Muslims. Although Biden did overturn the Muslim travel ban, both parties are fundamentally aligned on their support for Israel, even if they differ in their rhetoric. This is the unfortunate reality of the American political system. Muslims, like many other minority groups in the US, find themselves stuck between two parties, neither of which truly represent their interests. Muslims who think they can get a better deal with Trump by playing one party against the other are, I'd say, being very clearly exploited for short-term political gains. That's all from me, but what do you think about this endorsement? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. You can also support the channel through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the description below. I'm Secular Spirit, and I'll be back with another video very soon.